The Department of Justice has issued subpoenas for Tim Walz, Ellison, and Frey, Democrat officials in Minnesota, over alleged obstruction of ICE immigration enforcement. Oh boy. It looks like they're actually doing something. Subpoenas, we don't actually know what that will mean, but it's called by CBS a significant escalation in the conflict between the states and the federal government. Now, with all due respect, I know a lot of people aren't watching the Bill O'Reilly show, and I don't mean to be a dick, but he did say something rather interesting on his show recently, that there are 10 states that are effectively in rebellion against the federal government, 8 that are officially at the governmental level obstructing federal law enforcement, and 2 that are kind of on the line. They're obstructing, but they're still negotiating with Trump. This, my friends, dare I say, we are looking at the open door to what may become civil war. It has begun. And it's not just about states telling the federal government, screw off, we're going to fight you. It's about people ransacking private vehicles in Minnesota. Did you see this story? Running up to random vehicles because they think it's ICE, attacking random people in the street for wearing certain clothing. There's a video of a guy in a car. They run to the car, surround it, and try to drag him out. But here's where it gets really spicy. You may be saying, Tim, we know all of this. Tell me something that's more definitive. Right now, Maryland has officially decided they have voted to remove the last Republican seat in their state. Across the board in Democrat states, they are redistricting in mid-decade, which is shocking. Additionally shocking, Republicans were trying to do it too. And they're eliminating all the Republican seats, and they all agree to do it. In the meantime, Republicans are doing it to a certain degree, but in Indiana, they're going, well, I have honor, so I won't. The point is this. The states are explicitly stating, if we are controlled by Democrats, if the Democrats are saying if we're in power, we will strip all voices from the conservatives in our state. This is from geographic hyperpolarization due to people moving from California to Colorado or California to Texas. Now, inside these states, as Democrats take supermajorities, they are shutting out all Republican voices. In Virginia, 2 days after Democrats took power, they have unleashed a barrage of new laws that will tax people, that will ban certain gas-powered items, and that will effectively make it impossible for a Republican to ever win again. Now, along with all that, you may still be saying, sure, that's politics. Well, based on a new poll that just got released, Daily Wire reporting, the sentiment for assassinations in this country now exceeds 50%. With many on the right even saying they believe that Zohran Mamdani's assassination could be justified. And on the left, obviously it's disproportionately more on the left, saying Trump's assassination as well. So I look at all this and I'm like, well, we're cooked. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. We got a lot more. There was a shooting of 2 cops in Portland. A judge was shot in his home. Sorry to catastrophize, I suppose. But man, when I see this news, I'm just like, if the states line up against each other, what's next? It's pretty obvious, right? Federal officials calling out state officials, they're fighting. Well, we're going to talk about that and more. As I said before, we do got a great sponsor for you. We got Bearskin. You know, I'll tell you, when it hits the fan, you're going to want to make sure you get the best hoodie imaginable because you don't know when you'll get another one. So get your Bearskin now by texting Tim to 36912. You'll get 60% off. I'll send you a link, or you can go to baer.skin/Tim. You guys have seen it before. I was wearing it quite a bit. We're in Florida now, so I don't really need to wear the hoodie. But I was wearing it quite a bit. Smart people are grabbing theirs now because when it's already freezing, you want the gear that actually keeps you warm. And there's this big storm coming. I don't know if you guys saw this. These hoodies, yeah, ice storm. These hoodies are built for serious cold weather. It's got 340 GSM of bearskin fleece, 10 legit pockets, a muscular fit. It even zips into the heavy storm rain jacket to turn into full winter waterproof armor. Whether you're into hiking, hunting, traveling, or you just hate being cold, this is the last hoodie you'll ever need. You'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and you're finally kitted out properly for the winter, so it's a win-win. Do yourself a favor. Text the word Tim to 36912 to lock in your 60% off now. And when you do, you're not just getting killer gear, you're also supporting the fallen outdoors and Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. Don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Get a Bearskin now while it's still 60% off. Text Tim to 36912. And don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with every single person you have ever met. Subscribe to this channel if you have not. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we have Amy Dangerfield.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
Oh, I am Amy. I guess you would call it a cultural commentator. I commentate on everything from, well, they say, politics is downstream of culture. So I don't really get too much into the political side of things, but more so how it affects, everybody in their day-to-day life.
Including me.
Right on.
How it affects me. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm at Ian Crossland. You can find me at Ian Crossland all across the internet. Been doing this for about 20 years. Internet video, got into YouTube in 2006. Pioneered at Maker Studios, Minds.com, social media designer, actor, musician. Check out graphene.movie if you want to see the most recent movie I'm producing. Check out graphene.movie. Sign up for the mailing list. Tate Brown.
What is going on, Patriots? Tate Brown here holding it down. I'm also here to discuss how these stories directly impact Ian as well. I think that should be the primary focus today, in my opinion.
Sure.
So, Phil?
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Rachel and Darren. It was great meeting you guys today. And to Doris and Clint, really do appreciate that you are loyal viewers and you watch all the time. It means a lot to me to hear that. And we got to meet Rachel and Darren. They talked about how they watched every episode, and it was awesome. So nice meeting you guys. Shout out. Thank you so much. And for everybody else, same to all of you for watching. You can join us at timcast.com, be members, and I really do appreciate it. Let's jump into the news. We got from the DOJ, CBS News reporting, subpoenas issued to Waltz, Ellison, and Frey in probe alleging immigration obstruction. The DOJ on Tuesday served subpoenas to the offices of multiple Democratic officials in Minnesota, including Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, in connection with a probe into an alleged conspiracy to impede federal immigration officers. Three sources familiar with the matter told CBS News. The subpoenas represent a significant escalation between the DOJ and Minnesota officials who have clashed over the Trump administration's intense crackdown against immigrants living in the state illegally. They were served on the same day that Attorney General Pam Bondi arrived for a visit in Minnesota, multiple sources told CBS. Now, I just want to say one thing really quick, because you guys know that I've been glazing CBS News since Barry Weiss took over. I just want to make sure I point out, they literally said immigrants living in the states illegally. They didn't put migrants. They didn't put innocent children. They literally told the truth. I respect that because no one else in the corporate press has been doing that. And so, good. I say subpoenas were sent in connection with a DOJ investigation into state and local officials to see if they may have conspired to impede federal officers from discharging their duties. The Justice Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A copy of a subpoena seen by CBS does not specify which criminal violations the department is probing. However, multiple sources previously told CBS the primary statute being used as the basis for the probe is 18 U.S.C. 372. The same one that was used against some of the rioters who stormed the Capitol on January 6. Is that poetic justice? We shall see if anyone actually gets arrested.
Does this count as something happening? Nothing ever happens, guy?
You know, me?
No, I'm saying for the nothing
For
ever
the
happens.
I'm the things won't stop happening. See, the issue is nothing is ever enough for the nothing ever happens people. So they say, oh, so what? It's a subpoena. Tell me when they get arrested. It's like, well, Trump got arrested a year and a half ago. That was a thing that was happening. This is the first process. I think for most people, because they watch movies and you read history books, if you're reading if you read an encyclopedia entry on the American Revolution, it'll say like a quick paragraph like, due to an increase in taxes and violation of rights by the government, meetings were held by the founding fathers, which ultimately culminated. And then a year later, they're like, we're signing a Declaration of Independence. And you go, yeah, you said the letter, big deal. And then 3 months later, you get a response from the Crown. Regulars are showing up, and they're like, they come all the time. They regularly send regulars. At a certain point, someone's going to be like, the regulars are coming as they run through the night to warn everybody.
Yeah.
And that's when everyone kind of wakes up to it. So in the case of the Civil War, it didn't happen for like a year and a half or 2 years. People don't know this. They think the Civil War was like the South and the North met at Fort Sumter, and then the South was like, I hereby declare civil war. And then the North was like, how dare you? When actually, after the fight, there was still no Civil War. Actually, after the first Battle of Bull Run, there was still no Civil War, even though people were dead. It wasn't until I think it was a year and a half to 2 years later, they were like, hey guys, this is a Civil War. And then 2 years later, it was over.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not particularly black-pilled on all this stuff. I think that the government is going to go through the, standard motions to do an investigation and stuff. Obviously, I would love to see all three of these guys, in jail for what they've done. I think they've impeded the operations of ICE. They've encouraged people to commit acts of terrorism. So for me, it's like, all right, the ball's rolling, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the DOJ's got to get this right. Obviously, when you're issuing this many subpoenas, a lot of charges to go around. But a lot of people, again, on Twitter, but a lot of people that are legal experts have outlined the variety. I mean, they had their pick of statutes they could like bring charges forth under. So it's interesting that they've gone with 372, seeing as it was used in J6. Again, people are pretty sour, even within MAGA, even the most loyal Trump supporters have soured on the DOJ's performance. This could be the instance where they potentially win back, I think, a lot of people, including me, who have really felt like they've dropped the ball on in many ways.
It's 372 is conspiracy to impede or injure an officer.
I mean, if you, on its face, it seems pretty obvious that they did. You know, conspiracy to impede, like the fact that they're obviously talking to each other, they're talking to the police officers, they're talking to the department, and they're like, look, this is the stuff that you want to do. We want to pull these guys back, blah, blah, blah. Anytime that they're not actually directing law enforcement to help ICE do its job, they're actually impeding.
I just want to give a quick shout out, if you go to this Cornell Law School, to AJ Palagar, because I guess these are advertisements for lawyers in Florida. You can pull it back up if you want. Can you pull it back up? I just thought it was funny that we're pulling up the law to talk about news, and these guys have their ads running on it. They're just lawyers, so free promo, guys.
There you go.
Shout out.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Great work.
Anyway, the world's ending, and people are going to need a lot of lawyers, at least for the next several years. So what say you, Amy?
I mean, this is something that, I mean, you've kind of been saying for a long time. Civil war's coming, and like you mentioned, the nothing ever happens people always kind of scoff at that. But I think we're definitely seeing a culmination of, man, I mean, even before all of this really kind of stepped up a notch when it came to directly impeding these officers, you want to talk about these judges kind of letting immigrants like slip in through the back door of the courthouse so they don't, get arrested by ICE. I mean, this was already happening. We're just seeing it at a scale that is really scary. And now we're talking about, judges getting assassination attempts put on them. They're talking about we need to instigate laws to ensure that judges' addresses are removed, Why wasn't this already a thing? That's my question. Like after the Kavanaugh assassination attempt, why wasn't this already a thing to remove the judges?
I don't. When I see the statements from like Mayor Frey and Tim Walz, I don't believe these people are stupid. They may be, but for different reasons. But I think they're fully cognizant of the truth. They know what ICE is doing. They know why ICE is doing it. But they get their power, their luxury, their access from the left. And so they're not going to give that up. If they were to come out and say, I'm going to be honest with you guys, the American people voted for these actions. And that means the people who live in Minnesota, who are here illegally, are going to have to go home. And that's what democracy is. If they said that, they'd be out of office and they'd be in the poorhouse in 2 seconds. These are people who would rather say, burn the country down before taking me out of power. And we all know what happens to people like that. We've seen it in the Arab Spring. These guys in these countries could have walked away, but they didn't want to. Now, by all means, you can argue that, the ousting or killing of a lot of these politicians was wrong, whatever your opinion is. My point is, at a certain point, when there are people who are like, I should be in charge and I refuse to give up, they get removed, they get punished in some way. I think it's fair to say there is a conflict happening in this country. And whoever loses is going to face the consequences. Democrats are calling for putting Republicans in prison. Republicans at the ground level but Republican politicians are just shoving their thumbs up their butt and doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if Trump's going to do something, then he should fully do it. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise he's just instigating and pissing them off to the point where when they do come back in power, it's going to be with an absolute vengeance. And especially with the gerrymandering that we were kind of talking about before the show, setting up like permanent electoral majority in these different states. It's like, if we're going to do something, we need to actually fully do it.
What would that look like?
I mean, actually making sure that these indictments go through when it comes to. I'm surprised that it didn't even happen. Subpoenas, sorry. Right. I'm surprised that it didn't even happen though when it came to the healthcare conspiracy out of Minnesota. Like, why? How come there weren't any subpoenas issued over that when it came to Walz?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like I think there's a lot of people within the Trump administration that are aware of this. I think Trump is aware of this, but a lot of people within the DOJ, especially, it doesn't seem that they understand that at this rate, with this level of escalation, with this level of radicalism that is like persistent on the left, this is the off ramp. Like, we are heading down the path of civil war. This is the off ramp, is decisive, strong executive power. There's no ands, if, or buts, because the entire left-wing media and political activist soy waffen apparatus has been built on Trump is an evil fascist ISIS Gestapo. There's no common ground with these people. There's no like wrestling them back. There's no, debate to be had. There's no market. There's no idea to sell in the marketplace of ideas to like win these people back over. It's like, no, the only thing they're going to respond to at this point is force. And so again, like you said, to your point, I mean, the subpoenas are great, but we need to nip this in the bud right now.
A message needs to be sent to these politicians.
Yep.
If you break the law, you will have your power taken from you.
Yeah.
If you uphold the law, we will help you maintain order and status. That is, if you're a governor and the people of this country vote for a federal law to be enforced, and you decide you're going to go to war with the federal government, jail. Yep. If you decide, well, there may be a lot of angry people in my state, but this is how the system is supposed to work, and you work with the federal government, then I believe the federal government should come to your assistance and do what they can to help maintain order and help you. You're going to get voted out. That's going to happen because your state's nuts. But the federal government needs to go in and help manage this, because the point I'm making, let me clarify. You can't side with the lunatics running around smashing windows and beating people in the streets.
That's true.
You want to side with those people, you go to jail. If you say, I'm not going to let these people do it, the feds should come in and help you maintain order, arrest the rioters, get them locked up. I then think if you clean the streets up, you might actually win re-election. You might actually. Because what I see from the streets, you see that video where someone did a drive-by with a squirt gun in Minnesota? Drove by and sprayed the activists with water. It's like 9 degrees outside. The locals are not happy that a bunch of wackaloons are going nuts. Majority of people probably don't know or care about what's going on. It's always the extremists. Now, what I hear from a lot of people in politics is, well, there will never be a civil war because regular people don't care and they're not paying attention, so who's going to fight? And I'm like, I don't know, the 200,000 extremists on either side, as it always is, or Democrats seize power in the federal government and then levy war.
Yeah.
Like, this issue that we're seeing in Minneapolis is more like Bleeding Kansas. Street level, merciless beatings, violence, law enforcement against extremists and protesters. That's like Bleeding Kansas. People don't think it goes anywhere. They think it's localized violence. You know what really would kick things off? If, first of all, looking at what's going on in Virginia, which we'll get into in a second with them changing the laws, 48 hours and they've basically just wiped out the state. This is insane. And everyone, I think, could have seen this coming. Republicans are probably going to start fleeing. Wealthy and business owners are probably going to start fleeing. We're looking at something not too dissimilar from the Civil War. That is, you've got this localized violence over an ideological issue related to immigration. And we predicted this 1.5 years, 2 years ago. You're going to get a midterm, which will probably be contentious. And then you're going to get a presidential election. And should it be J.D. Vance or any other Republican who vows with a strong fist, we are going to continue and maintain our operations. Democrats fought very hard in 1860 in the election to make sure they could keep their free labor, people who had no choice. We've heard Democrats say time and time again, these people will do the jobs that no one wants to do. We get it, okay? You like your slaves. Well, if Vance comes in and says, we're ending your second-class citizenry operations, this is where it goes national. It's localized now in Minnesota and in other parts of the country too, California, Washington. What happens if 2028 comes around and the Democrats realize you've lost and this is done? Will we actually then see a stronger resistance based on the level of escalation? I would say I think there's a possibility we get somewhere like that. I don't know what it looks like and I don't know what happens in between, but considering we're at the point where the DOJ has issued subpoenas against the governor, the mayor, and the AG. People are beating random people in the streets. You had a woman shot and killed. Again, I'm not talking about morality. I'm just saying it did happen. The escalation is there.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the one time where people go, guys, whoa, holy crap. We can't do this. We can't have states fighting the Fed.
Yeah, I hope that kind of shifts people's perspective. I know that a lot of Republicans are kind of flirting with this idea. Let's withhold our votes from Republicans for failing to come through on a lot of the promises that they made when they were campaigning for election. Withhold your votes. Teach them a lesson that, you know, if you don't follow through with the promises that you make to the people, you're not going to get reelected. But what does the other side of that look like? It's scary if the Democrats come into power. So it kind of feels like a little bit of a lose-lose situation on both sides.
It's a tough calculation because, I mean, you can ask libertarians how that's worked for them, where they, again, withhold their votes expecting like a different... I understand that, I guess, to a degree, extensive executive power. Again, these politicians, it's really more about holding them accountable to their promises. So it's not a one-to-one. But generally, like, it's more about who's staffing these campaigns, who's sort of in charge of implementing policy more so than like reactiveness to the base. It's just, it sucks. That's just like the way that liberal democracy functions. And until we escape that, I don't think you're going to see like decisive power wielded by maybe by the executive to a certain degree, but certainly not by Congress.
Let's jump to this next story. We have this from Vote Hub. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk real civil war, because you're probably saying, Tim, people fighting in the street does not a civil war make. Tim, politicians bicker all the time. The Trump people have been fighting with the Democrats the whole time, going back 10 years. What's new? What's new is that we are facing an unprecedented redistricting effort across the country. Typically, redistricting is done on the 10s, so 2010, 2020, 2030. It's now 2026. And in the past year, Democrats and Republicans have decided to eliminate political opposition in their states. Now, I believe it was Republicans who kicked this off. I'm not entirely sure. And it is a bold and unprecedented move. Now, conservatives have said, Republicans, full steam ahead. Democrats responded with, let's play too. So what happens when you have every state deciding to eliminate the rival political party from their state? We went from geographic polarization. This is people in California moving to Texas and Washington to Utah, people in New York to Florida. You're getting hyper concentrations of single political ideologies in certain areas. That's the geographic hyperpolarization. And now, with a weakened political base, Republicans in blue states and Democrats in red states are getting removed from the political equation, as predicted, with the latest being in Maryland. Maryland's Redistricting Advisory Commission has recommended a new 8-0 congressional map and sent it to Wes Moore. Christian Hines with the viral tweet saying, between this and Virginia, Democrats will have actually won the 25-26 phase of the redistricting wars unless Indiana has a change of heart, Florida gets involved, or the VRA is struck down, the Voting Rights Act. And if both of these states redraw Dem-favoring lines without any further action from red states, Democrats will probably have a 95+% chance of flipping the House in November. They wouldn't even need to flip any of the remaining toss-up seats around the country, including several districts they're already favored to win. That is, based on this map from 270 to win, based on redistricting, if Republicans do not play the game as well, Democrats don't even need to win an election. They don't need to campaign. They don't need to spend money. They will have just owned it based on demographics. It's done. And the New York Times actually published a story on this saying, who will win the House? 3 maps tell a tale. Take a look at this. 36 seats are most competitive. 18 are toss-ups. 26 redistricted or under discussion. 11 or so are in discussion. Effectively, Democrats are going to win the House, which is extremely tight as it is, not by convincing the American people, but by, in their states, utilizing their majority powers to eliminate Republicans from the equation. That means for the 40+% of Republicans who may live in these states, you will no longer have a say, and the Democrats are not going to let you ever have power again.
This is what the goal is. I mean, this is what they've done in California. This is, I believe they've done this in New York. It's essentially going to be Democrat, for eternity. Washington is like that now. And if they manage to do this nationally, they're going to pack the court. They're going to add states. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that Democrats don't ever lose again. We were talking about this last night. The Democrats thought that they had a permanent control of power when Barack Obama won. They figured the Republicans were going to be relegated to a regional party, and it would be the real competition was going to be who the Democrat nominee was, and they would have they would have whoever their guy was go against the Republican, and of course they would win. If this happens, you can forget about ever having a Republican again. Like it will be one party control, and then the rest of the whole United States will turn into California. California's terrible budget situation, California's terrible immigration situation, California's inability to retain people, like all the people that, and globally, the United States is the last place to go. So it doesn't get more important than voting in this next coming election and in 2028. And this is something that I was saying in the pre-show. People like to say, oh, this is not the most important election. Everyone always says this is the most important election. Because we are human beings that exist in linear time, every election is the most important election ever, because that's the only one you can vote in at that time. The elections that happened in the past, you can't change them. The elections that are coming in the future, you can't touch them. So the only ones that matter are the ones that you can affect right now. So the next election in 26 is the most important election ever. And then after that, the 28 one is the most important ever.
Why didn't they do this when Trump apparently had the election stolen from him? That's the thing. Why haven't Republicans already done something? At the end of the day, voter ID, proof of citizenship would fix everything. If this was such a big issue and the election was stolen, why haven't they already implemented this?
Republicans are, how do I say, pussies.
Retarded. I was gonna...
That too. Well, here's how I view Republicans. Republicans tend to have this mindset of, I don't want to be the person who gets a target on his back. If I actually do these things, someone's going to try and kill me or accuse me of improprieties. Like Brett Kavanaugh was accused of being a party to gang rapes in his college years, like just insane fabrication. Republicans are terrified. The truth is this: it's a simple question. If I were to tell you that, or let me just leave it like this: do you believe that the example I love using is Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is going to lead a group of angry, violent extremists to a corporate headquarters throwing firebombs because they censored him or someone else. No. Now, if I told you that some progressive leftist did, you'd be like, what do you mean that happened yesterday in Minneapolis? Yeah. The point is, conservatives don't get violent. So the Republicans go, my only fear is the left. That means if I actually stand up and say I should fight for this country, no one on the right's going to get my back, and no one and the left will try to kill me. If I demur and just say, well, we got to have decorum here, Republicans will only complain, and the Democrats will leave my family alone.
Yeah.
But they still do just enough to antagonize the left to make them want to do that. Do you know what I mean?
You mentioned that earlier.
I disagree. Yeah. I disagree. Some Republicans do, but not enough Republicans, and I would say 80%, they're doing very little. And they're getting heat regardless.
Yeah. This is something that we've talked about a little bit on the show. The idea that Republicans are the reason why Democrats behave the way that they do, or that the Republicans could do something to prevent them from behaving the way they do, I don't buy it at all. That's why I was saying, like, this election that's coming up, no matter what happens, the Democrats will do everything they can to consolidate power. If the Republicans win, then the Republicans have a chance. If they don't win, they're going to do everything they're going to stall. The House will start impeachment hearings on Trump. It doesn't matter whether they have any substance or not. That's not the point. They will do everything they can to hamstring the Trump administration. And then come, the presidential election, they're going to be like, see, the Republicans didn't do anything. They didn't do all this stuff they promised you, and et cetera, et cetera. And they're going to hope that that's enough to get them over the finish line. And if they win the presidency and still have the House and the Senate, they will annihilate the whole country.
I want to stress, because you said, Phil, that this is the most important election. I think the point we're seeing here with this redistricting war is that time is come and gone. The time for these elections was before anyone realized. We had the conversation several months ago, just after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and I said any move we make to preempt what we believe is coming will feel premature. To cite Godwin's law, the Jews in Nazi Germany who fled early, and the ones who didn't were killed. And the ones who didn't were like, you're crazy. Like, it's not going to happen. And if you read the literature on this stuff, the reason why people stayed behind and were like, I don't think it'll ever get that bad. So after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, we ripped the conversation, and I said, look, we're discussing whether or not we can keep doing this show the way we do it, because we're relatively exposed, right? Yeah. We don't. Let me say it like this. Back in the day, if you had a primetime TV show that got 10 million listeners, 10 million, it was you. No other station could broadcast that. That meant you owned 100% of the sponsorship rights. 10 million people would watch you. You'd sell an ad for 10 million. You'd make a ton of money. I'm saying for 10 million viewers, you had millions of dollars. You hired bodyguards, crazy security. Today, this show probably gets 10 million views or more per episode, not on this channel or on Rumble or on podcasts, but because clips are made.
Right, yes.
And the show is then shared all over the place. And so what happens is my face, Ian's face, our guest, Phil, Tate, Serge, everybody who's on the show has exposure to tens of millions of people through these clips, especially when they're taken out of context. This creates a massive risk, death threats, etc.
I mean, it already happened to you. Someone tried to shoot up your
Someone didn't try. They did shoot up our property.
Yeah.
And we don't have the ability to monetize against those views. So we get a massive spike in attention without the ability to generate the revenue that typically was used to provide security and this access.
Makes sense.
It's funny because after that conversation, then a couple months later, we had a drive-by shooting. 3 shots were fired at our property. Hence, we're now in Florida trying to figure out how to move forward. Right now, what I'm looking at is the elections that mattered were 3, 4, 5 years ago. The elections that mattered. Virginia, the election that mattered was the one that just happened, to be completely honest, because we'll jump into that in a second, but they've basically just steamrolled. I mean, the Democrats have made moves in Virginia in 48 hours that scream communist revolution. And again, we'll get into it. There's no election that's going to fix that.
Yeah.
And when we go into 2026, Democrats are now eliminating Republican votes from their states. There's no election that's going to fix the House. The states have already decided the House will be as they decide. It will be Democrat.
Yep.
So you get to vote for your candidate, and they're going to win. But guess what? Based on the demographic makeup of the districts that they've decided, if you're a Democrat living in a Republican district, you may get through in Indiana because they didn't change it. But in most of these Democrat states, Republican votes are effectively gone. So what do you do if you're a Republican? Let me say it like this. Man, the vibes out here are fantastic in Florida.
They really are.
I mean, Tate, you were mentioning that people were recognizing you. You know,
but it was like positive, which is great.
Well, but I mean, just like you're a relatively new addition to the team in the past year, and even people know who you are. They watch the show. Serge as well, Kellen Carter getting recognized. We were talking about it, and it's just like everywhere we go, everyone's like, we watch the show, and it's actually quite simple. The people who are moderates who lived in blue areas in the past 4 years moved to Texas and Florida. So this area is a high density of people who share a moral worldview with us. In West Virginia, which is very based, it's true, but borders Virginia, where when we go for food 5 minutes south, we're in Virginia where people are flying pride flags. You go to Maryland, we go to some of our favorite restaurants, they fly a pride flag above City Hall. And that's where the conflict exists. Hence, someone does a drive-by. So the question now is, what do you do considering this change has already happened?
Yeah.
It's already happened.
To fight fire with fire, right? We have to do the same.
Republicans aren't doing it. That's the point.
Well,
they are to a certain extent, but Indiana backed down, and now the Democrats are going to take the House, not based on electoral prowess, but based on seizure of power.
Yeah. Well, and Tim, I totally agree with you, because I don't really buy like the idea that's like, okay, well, every election ramps up importance. I totally agree. Like 1992, the Republican primary, if Pat Buchanan won, we would have been out of this mess already. Like we would have mopped this up 30 years ago. And because this illustrates with the redistricting battle, this illustrates the point that I think Orrin McIntyre had made, where it's like, look, all a democracy is at this point, all an election is at this point is simply a census. All you're doing is just counting what the demographics are of your district. There's no like swinging voters anymore, and it drives me absolutely like mad that the Republicans, their only like way they're actually fighting back is like this wholesome chungus like voter drives that you're seeing where they're like, I registered 10,000 people at a gas station, and it's like sick, and then the election comes along, we get blown out, and it's like what are we doing? The only way we're actually going to compete again is like returning what the Democrats are actually doing, which is again just shoring up your vote. Because like it's great you got a bunch of people registered, but it's like they're not turning out if Trump's not on the ballot, and also again they'll just redistrict you out of existence.
Okay, but let's take that to its logical conclusion. So it starts with Republicans, I believe, in Texas, a mid-decade redistricting, and Democrats said, if you want to play, we'll play too. And Democrats decided to play harder. I love this. This Jennifer Welch lady said, when we elect Democrats, they've got to be FU Democrats, not these integrity Democrats. And I'm like, I don't know that integrity Democrats exist.
There's no such thing anymore.
No such thing.
No.
So they're already doing it. Republicans in some states said, let's play. Democrats said, we'll play harder. And Republicans are going, I guess we lose. The logical conclusion is, if the Republicans do decide to fight fire with fire, Democrats say, you want to play again? We'll play harder. Democrats locked up lawyers, Trump's lawyers, Trump himself, false criminal charges. Donald Trump's DOJ says, maybe mortgage fraud. Bill Pulte's the only one. Let me give a shout out to Bill Pulte. Seemingly the guy with the least amount of power to do it, actually getting the job done to his best degree as he can. So this guy gets put in the, was it FHSA, Federal Housing Administrator, whatever it's called. And the DOJ is not locking these people up. The DOJ is not investigating or charging. We're not seeing anything from it. And then the guy who gets the Housing Administration goes, I'm going to find a way to get charges on these people. And he finds mortgage fraud. Is that the best the Trump DOJ is going to do? So I'll put it like this. Right now, it appears the Republicans are either incapable or unwilling to fight fire with fire as Democrats run roughshod over them. And if they don't, then we're in trouble. And if they do, Democrats will escalate. It would seem that Democrats win or we get major conflict.
Yeah. There was
communist revolution or civil war.
It's lose-lose.
Yeah, literally. I mean, there's literally there's a show that Republicans have no idea what time it is. There's literally a state senator in Indiana. His name was Mike something along those lines. And when Trump called Tim Walz retarded, which was hilarious and true, he literally came out and he was like, I'm a man of integrity, and like I know people in my family that have Down syndrome or whatever, and I'm a vote no on the redistricting bill because Trump has said retarded, and that's offensive.
He said naughty words.
I know, and I'm just like, dude, like Charlie Kirk just got shot. Like, are you a little new around here? Do you know what time it is? I mean, these people, literally, principles types of people, the wholesome Chungus Republicans just need to go. I want enough.
Let me at least get one word in, guys. Come on. I'm going to tell you a story. I worked at Vice. Everybody knows this. Really? And I remember talking with Shane Smith, the CEO, who was always a really good dude as far as I knew, despite, obviously there's public criticisms. And he was talking about, I think he was 45 at the time, and I was 28 or something, or what was that, 27? And he was talking about how cable TV was it. And they really wanted to get a cable channel, and that was the dream. And I'm sitting there going like, what are you talking about? I don't know anybody who watches cable TV. And then it clicked. His world, the people he talks to, the friends he knows, the meetings he has, no one's talking about YouTube. Everyone's talking about cable TV. YouTube is a sideshow. He goes to these meetings with the advertisers and they say, look, we want to buy on cable TV. We don't care about YouTube. And he's going, if I'm going to run a business and be with in the big leagues, I got to be where the big leagues are. And that's TV. I was a younger guy and I said, I don't know a single person who does this. So what happens? 10 years later, who cares about cable TV, right? For us, we're sitting here going, YouTube, long form, podcasts, and Gen Z is brain rotting AI slop. We know it's going to happen in 10 years. My point on this, that boomer guy you mentioned is like, I thought who's retarded. You're saying, does he not know what time it is? Is he new here? No. He's surrounded only by other boomers. They're not watching the content we produce. They're watching cable TV. They don't understand what time it is because they don't live in the real world. What's going to happen as young people are radicalized, older people less likely, and as I've said a million times, when the boomers die, and they're at the mortality cliff right now at 79 years old, we are going to see millennials inheriting a lot more power. And then I can hear the Gen Xers complaining they were left out. No, it's because Gen Xers are normal and stable. The millennials are where you start getting lunatics, and then Gen Z is where everyone's lost their mind. By the time Gen Z's in their mid-30s and they're controlling corporations, and they're the ones in office, and they will be, they are going to be, it's going to be full-scale conflict, right? Let's jump to this next story from the New York Sun and give you the breakdown. Virginia Democrats propose a raft of new taxes after taking state government trifecta. The story is this. It's been 2 days since the Democrats got in after their major sweeping election, and they are burning the state down. It is a full-bore communist revolution. Let me show you from Greg Price. Democrats now control the legislature and governor's office in Virginia. Here are just a few of the bills they've introduced. New 4.3% sales tax on Uber Eats, Amazon, and deliveries. New sales tax on admissions to a wide variety of businesses. Create 2 new higher tax brackets of 8 and 10% of people making over 600K. New 10% tax bracket for anyone making making over $1 million. 3.8 investment tax on top of state income tax. Raise the hotel tax. New personal property tax on landscaping equipment. Ban gas-powered leaf blowers. Guarantee illegal aliens free education. Make it illegal to approach somebody in an abortion clinic. Extend the time of absentee ballots can be received after election day to 3 days. Allow people to cast their votes electronically through the internet. Expand ranked choice voting. Extend the deadline for ballot counting to 1 week after election day. Redact the addresses of political candidates from FOIAs. Add Virginia to the National Popular Vote Compact for presidential electors. Make it illegal to hand count ballots. $500 sales tax on firearm suppressors. Assault weapons in quotes and large capacity magazine ban in Virginia of all places. Don't tread on me, state. 11% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition. Prohibit outdoor shooting of a firearm on land less than 5 acres. Lower the criminal penalties for robbery. Ban the arrest of illegal aliens in courthouses. Remove mandatory minimum sentences. Allow localities to install speed cameras. Replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day for good measure. The 2 that matter: make it illegal to hand count ballots. Add Virginia to the National Popular Vote Compact for presidential electors.
What's that one mean?
So that means there is the National Popular Vote Compact, where a series of states have an agreement with each other that should the popular vote swing one way, and it would their states have the power to affect the Electoral College, they will vote for whoever won the popular vote, not the state vote, not the Electoral College vote. Once you get a certain, they're fairly close. Once a certain number of states sign on, which I think might be like 35 or 36 or something like that, there will no longer be an Electoral College. And this effectively means what you are seeing in Maryland, in Virginia, where they are wiping out Republican voices, this country will become pure Democrat and Republicans will become second-class citizens with no voice whatsoever in politics. Because with the National Popular Vote Compact, well, there's a lot of arguments about how it would play out. One is that you've got, 20 million, how many, or 10 million Republicans? How many people are in California? Is it 50, 60 million?
30.
60?
It's 36 million.
36 million, right? And 35% or 40% are Republican. And their voice is not represented because the way the state works. Some argue more Republicans will turn out to vote if it's a national popular vote.
39.4.
A Republican?
No, 39.4 million.
Generally, however, the idea is Democrats tend to get the popular vote. Republicans get the Electoral College vote. If they enact this, Republicans can never win again unless they become Democrats. The Republican Party then becomes gay communists. The Democrats become AI. That's the joke about the future based on what the Republican Party already does.
We're cooked.
Yeah. Do you guys hear that? Do you hear that noise? That's 4 years of Glenn Youngkin gone with the sign of a pen.
Yeah.
Unironically, because the Virginia Republicans, they had this genius idea where they're like, hey, maybe we can step into the left's framework and then beat them at their own game. It's like, let's run a based black woman, and she's going to carry a gun around, and she's going to talk about how the Democrats are the real racists. Boom, there you go. 4 years of Glenn Youngkin down the drain. A very effective governor, by the way. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, he's not this like super authentically right-wing governor like a lot of people want. He's not quite DeSantis flavor. Very effective, especially for a state like Virginia that is a light blue state. Great legacy, et cetera.
Not anymore.
Gone like that. Just because, again, the Republicans want to like have a one over on Democrats because they're just so desperate to get approval from like the gay zeitgeist.
Here's what's going to happen. Virginia's new bills are going to result in gun owners, many of them fleeing, wealthy individuals fleeing. It's going to cause massive problems for the state budget. California is expected to lose $1 trillion. $1 trillion because of their wealth tax proposal. Billionaires are like, I will leave. I will locate somewhere else. It's going to happen to Virginia as well. The conditions are going to cause more anger. And what do we see in places like Venezuela? When the Venezuelan retard government destroyed their economy with retard communist policies, instead of saying, guys, I think we're retarded, they said, it's not our fault. It's the imperialists who are destroying our country. Well, that's not true. But what's going to happen in Virginia and in California is they're going to say, we did everything right. Yep. The reason why we have feces everywhere and no money, it's Trump's fault.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they're going to get violent.
More
than they already are.
When the extremely rich leave, they're going to pass those taxes on to the people that they say are the millionaires. But at least in California, the property tax that they're talking about, it's any property you own. I've got a friend that's Like maybe he has $1 million, but probably not. He's definitely not a multimillionaire. But his house is in Lakewood, and it's a nice area, and it's worth $1 million. Now it's 2 stories, maybe. I think there's probably 4 or 5 rooms or whatever. It's a normal, what you would consider a normal house. If you looked at that, you take that house and you put it in South Carolina, it's probably $400,000, right? Like it's a nice house, but it's not some kind of extravagancy. He's going to be treated like a millionaire. They're going to tax him as if he's a millionaire. When the billionaires leave, they're going to go after the middle class. This is what happens in socialist countries all the time. That's why you end up with no middle class and a huge poor population, and only the extremely rich and wealthy people that are connected that can get around it. They're going to destroy California if that passes, and you're going to see that move happening in other states as well. I was talking to another friend. They're doing similar things in Washington State. They've got a socialist mayor in Seattle. Boeing is leaving or has largely left. Amazon will go if they pass it. There's another big company up. I think IBM's up there.
Those companies are relocating to Virginia. That's the interesting thing.
Well, they're going to look at that and they're be like, well, maybe we're going to go somewhere else.
Well, this is what makes Virginia it's like kind of an interesting exception, because most of the people there aren't there for like a favorable business environment. They're there for proximity to Washington, D.C. without having to get hammered on D.C. taxes. Now, again, this could be enough to maybe persuade them to move somewhere else, but they don't really have much of an option. One thing that's interesting is the national GOP does have a trick up their sleeve if they, again, were so brave to do it, is they could just revoke the secession of Arlington, which they ceded Arlington and Alexandria to the state of Virginia.
Make D.C. square again.
Yeah, D.C. has the ability, like they actually have the ability to make D.C. a square again. That lops off like 500,000 voters to D.C. And again, it puts Virginia back in play. But as we've seen here, I wouldn't hold my breath on it.
The things I would do if I were president, or at least speaker, or majority leader in the Senate, I'd probably get assassinated.
Why isn't Trump doing
I'd
them
probably
though?
get assassinated.
Like, why isn't he doing anything?
I think the issue is that Trump is currently negotiating with NATO, and one man can only do so much. So it's funny, right? I can't remember what happened. We were at Freedamistan, and one of the guests was here, and they were like, "Oh, hey, where do you keep the toilet paper?" And I went, "I have no idea." And he was like, "Oh, it's your company, dude." And I was like, "You think I know where the toilet paper, bro? I have no idea what's going on half the time." I have 2 words for anybody who asks me a question about the functioning of this business. Anyone know what they are?
Ask Allison.
Ask Mark.
Indeed, that's right.
Ask Mark instead.
Ask Mark.
Yeah.
Ask Mark now. Okay, yeah. No, to be fair, Mark. I mean, I love Mark, but he is fairly new to the business. So
it's just it's so sad.
But that is the plan. Ask Mark is the new phrase. Yes. Look, I complain on the internet and the functioning of how we do things or execution, but the minutiae I don't. So to the point of Trump, his DOJ goes to them and they say, "We've got a thing going on in Minnesota," and he's like, "Hold on, I'm on the phone with Macron. What were you saying?" Get a subpoena on him. What are you doing? And they go, "Okay." And then he's like, "Now back to the things that matter: Greenland, Saudi Arabia petro deals, the South China Sea." The foreign policy stuff is the true purview of the president. War, foreign affairs, and so he's not I would estimate. Trump's getting a briefing from DHS and the DOJ on internal affairs, like domestic affairs, and he's looking at it and saying, "Okay, here, do this, do that." What is he focused on? What's he talking about? He's talking to world leaders about Greenland.
Yeah.
So if it were me, I'd imagine first, realistically, anybody here, anybody watching, you'd be in the same position as Trump. Yeah. However, I'm also a bit of a lunatic, and I'm, I think, much more willing to be crazier than Trump would be. And I think it's probably because it's like a youth factor thing. I think as much as people want to say Trump is crazy, he might push the button. Like, no, Trump is an older guy. He's seen a lot. He's more experienced. He is wise. He's a bit brash. Me, I'd go on TV and be like, "It's time to arrest all of these people. Someone do it."
Yeah, there was a YouGov poll that half of Zoomer Trump supporters just said ignore SCOTUS. So it's like clearly young people are just kind of fed up with the pomp and circumstance.
The optics of it are crazy though. Like I get it. He probably is doing a lot of important things behind the scenes that maybe we do not know or understand, or he's delegated these things to other people in his cabinet, right? But it just seems like when you look at it on the face of things, it seems like he's being too busy like renaming things like, Gulf of America, Department of War. It's like, who cares about these things? Who cares about renaming things?
I disagree. Perception is reality.
But I think he's bad at the optics. That's what I'm saying. Like the optics of it on the face is that he's not doing anything. Does he not care about the way that it looks? I mean, to kind of do a little side note, even did you guys see the event that they threw at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend with the furries? They literally, it was like some humane society event that they were running where basically they were
Liberal slop.
Yeah, but they literally had people wearing essentially furry masks. And are we forgetting about the fact that literally 3 months ago, Tim Dillon said this on his podcast, Charlie Kirk was assassinated by the boyfriend of a furry. Apparently, that's the narrative, and yet now they're hosting these grand events. Are you pulling it up? It's crazy.
Oh yeah, they did have a furry party.
Look at it. It's actually insane. This is what I mean. Does he not even care about the optics of how it looks
what
to
was
everybody
this?
else? It was for like the Humane Society awarding like dogs for like the most.
I think because the Humane Society, and this is splitting hairs, and I think that I agree with you on the optics of it, but I think that if you're going to steel man what's going on, this wasn't about furries, because furries is a whole LGBT connected, generally LGBT connected weird fetish thing, whereas this was set up by the Humane Society or whatever, and it was about animals, not about
it wasn't furries. It was just like it is.
They look
goofy
like furries.
Yes,
They look like furries. That's
that's why I
gotta
gave
stop
you. That's why I gave
furries,
you
furries dress like cartoon animals. Those people were dressed like animals. There's a distinction.
Furish. They were
No.
furish.
Furries have like an identity of a cartoon animal. They dress like Bugs Bunny, whereas these were like dog costumes. It's goofy, but
Either way, the Humane Society should be kept as far away from conservatives.
Yes.
I mean,
it's not good, but I do think that it's worth making a distinction.
Let's jump to this next story, and the headline is easy: women are nuts.
So true.
Women are more likely to support political assassinations. Now, you know what I don't like about this headline, Daily Wire, is that the actual study is majority of Americans find killing of Trump or Mamdani justified. That should be the headline. But it goes to show you the Daily Wire audience, when they lead with women are more likely to support assassinations. That's the modern era, right?
More likely
so
to
true.
what? I know what they are
Well,
insinuating,
like
but
if
some
I
people might
titled the
not.
video like "Women are nuts," I'd get way more views than if I titled it "Women favor assassinations."
And it's true. The Foyds have gone a little crazy. I mean, this is what happens when they're literally like drip-fed murder documentaries for like 20 years in a row. That's why women unwind. Is they're like,
look at the
true
poll.
crime
I know, it's
genre. It's insane.
yeah, let me
It's
unwind to like a Zodiac killer documentary.
Right, so
It's like,
here's what's serious. Both the right and the left, according to this poll, in the majorities believe it's time for political assassinations. Of course, more so on the left. But what surprised me is that even conservatives agreed in the assassination of Mamdani. Females at 54.7%. Now, that may be shocking to a lot of people. I think it's absolutely psychotic for anyone to support assassinations of either of these people. I think Mamdani is a very, very bad guy. But I think you handle this with FEMA management campaigns. The federal government can come in, and if it's really bad, remove him from power. But you know why people are saying things like this? With Trump, they're calling him the Gestapo. He's Hitler. He's a Nazi. He's rounding up children. Mamdani says he wants to abolish ICE, and he's advocating for non-American citizens. The degree of extremism in this country at the political level, I view it largely on the liberal side. Let's be honest. This is a country that has always had laws. If you're a politician and you vow to defend non-citizens from the law, you're a rogue politician. The answer to that, federal government should go and remove you from power, and Mamdani should be removed. I absolutely think so. Trump, however, has been buddy-buddy. However, for your run-of-the-mill, regular old conservative, looks like about half of them are saying Trump won't do it and something needs to be done, and that's terrifying.
What is this sample? Like, I'm curious, like, how many people were polled in this?
I think it was around 1,500. Let me see if I can find the crosstabs.
I wonder how they asked the question too.
Right. I mean,
I
all
think
of this stuff matters, right?
The question was not that do you want to assassinate, but it was something like, are there circumstances in which the assassination of Mamdani would be justified? And around half of Republicans said yes.
That's insane.
And then asked that of Trump, they said something similar. Let me see if I can find the actual crosstabs, but in the meantime, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, to discuss political assassinations, it just shows how deteriorated our political discourse has gotten. This is not okay, and it's probably largely because of like super online people. You know, this kind of rhetoric is something that you will see just on TikTok all the time. I mean, you can go and look at how many people, the way people reacted to Charlie Kirk or to Donald Trump getting the attack on Donald Trump and stuff. There are a lot of people that think that this is just a game. Like Tim's made the point. Good, the lady that was shot in Minneapolis, her wife was hollering, "Why did you have real bullets?" As if law enforcement would ever not have real bullets. Like there is a distinction between riot control and regular law enforcement.
This is
regular
in
law
the
enforcement
UK.
has
This
guns.
is actually interesting. It was 2,221 American adults. However, they excised participants around 1,170 for lack of quality responses. They were filtered out, leading to a final sample of 1,055 balanced on gender, race, ethnicity, age, and education. On U.S. Census benchmarks, additionally, the sample was weighted on age, 4 categories, race, 5 categories, gender, 3 categories, and education, 4 categories. I like it. Gender had 3 categories. Man, woman, or I forgot. And the question was, let me see if they have the question, but is there, could there, let me see how they phrased it. Let's see. It said, at least, do you believe there is at least some justification for assassination? I believe was the question.
Oh, that's so crazy to say yes to right now. What people are demoralized?
Do you believe there's at least some justification for murdering Donald Trump? Do you believe there is at least some justification for murdering Zohran Mamdani? And we find that of Trump, 54% of centrists said yes, 54% of right of center, 50% of all categories, with 40.4% of left. I'm sorry, that was Mamdani. This is Mamdani, not Trump.
Right.
So 40% of people on the left are also saying that, like,
Mamdani.
what justification were they giving? Like, he also killed someone? Like, that's
Yeah.
like a really weird.
And on the right, they say the same thing for Trump. People on the right say there is some justification for murdering Trump. The point is, it's not a do you want to do it? It's do you think, like, it's when I saw that 42% of people right of center agreed there was some justification for the murder of Trump. It's not a question of whether they want it to happen. It's whether they perceive these individuals having done things that someone would be like, he must be stopped.
These thinkers aren't going far. You have to, is it justified? You have to justify what comes after the action too. And all the potential outcomes. Can you justify that as well? It's not like the chaos and tumult that could ensue is not.
People don't think that far ahead.
Yeah, they're disconnected from the real outcomes, and people are being radicalized online, specifically women. Like, they have specifically, so I'm not surprised by the title of this headline. They've been very good at radicalizing women in politics. And when you look at social media platforms, the issue is, on TikTok, you're talking about the content over there. Like, a lot of right-wing content gets censored on TikTok. So it's leftist voices that are projected. And this is the dominant influence that women are receiving because they don't even have the option of seeing this right-wing content in a lot of instances. I mean, it was just like a year ago, literally, you couldn't even put Nick Fuentes in the title of a YouTube video. You had to put asterisks on it to prevent the video from being taken down. So the amount of right-wing content that is censored versus left-wing content has resulted in radicalization of women. I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense.
Why women? What have you noticed about particularly
women are so emotional, and here's the thing: they play on that. They know that women are emotional, and this is why, controversial take, I don't think that women should be in high positions of power in politics. Honestly, I learned a statistic recently that's kind of interesting. So cortisol, right, the stress hormone that both men and women experience. I recently learned that 1 tablespoon or teaspoon of cortisol, it takes women an entire day to metabolize that. So basically, she needs to go to sleep and wake up the next morning and she'll be okay. She'll be reset. Whereas a man, he can metabolize that within a period of a couple of hours. Women do not react well to stressful situations. And the media and left-wing politicians are counting on that, and they're weaponizing that against women.
Yep. I mean, like, I'm not repeal the 19th guy.
I kind of am.
Well, I mean, I'm not a repeal the 19th guy because it doesn't go nearly far enough. I think that the people that I think that there should be a specific class of people that are allowed to vote, maybe property owners or business owners. But I don't think I think there are plenty of women that should be allowed to vote. But I don't think that it should be just blanket all women. But I do think that there should be a certain group of people that pass tests and who have the responsibility and understand the responsibility of the vote. So
100%, and yet just illegal aliens and dead people are voting.
Well,
right? So I mean,
I don't think whether you're an illegal alien. I think if you're a first generation person, you've immigrated to the United States, you shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be allowed to vote.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to, honestly.
For multiple reasons.
I mean, I think it should be per household. I want my fiance's vote to count. I feel like if you're a married couple, especially like. Usually married couples have similar like political opinions, but like for example, if it's a right-wing guy and a left-wing woman and they're married, I feel like the husband's vote should count.
Yeah,
more.
I agree.
Because you
I agree.
identify with his political party?
No, because I mean, you're just splitting the vote like per household. It doesn't make any sense. And to your point, I think there should just be a higher standard in general when it comes to people who are allowed to vote.
And the
One
man
of the
should
worst
be leading
things
the
that ever
household.
happened to America was MTV's Rock the Vote in the 90s. It was
Literally.
a horrible idea.
And the man should be leading the household anyway. So if
Yes.
the woman is like dominating your household and winning the household's vote, then
Yeah.
like you just deserve that. You deserve to get outvoted.
Yeah, but we don't deserve that. Like America doesn't deserve
Yeah,
that.
but you know
Exactly.
these guys, you know these longhouse guys, they need to learn their lesson. Maybe they do need like a communist takeover.
It's so crazy when you look at like Australia, for example. Did you guys know that everyone in Australia is compelled to vote? Like if you don't vote, you literally get fines.
Dang, it's
And
like
then-
LeBron's vote or die, but it's like real.
It's terrible.
Just for
It's a terrible idea.
Just for the national election or a bunch of elections?
For no, I think it's just for the national. I would need to confirm that. Maybe chat will fact check me, but definitely for the national election, every single person is compelled to vote.
So they compel you to vote, but then they ban like a bunch of parties.
It's it's insane.
ridiculous.
And I'm like I moved to America for a reason. I've been here nearly 10 years. I have not returned to Australia since I moved over here. And
Are you
it's
allowed
just,
to?
Yeah, well, honestly, with some of the political opinions that I've espoused, I wouldn't be surprised if I went back, they would not let me in, or they'd be waiting there to like arrest me or something, perhaps. Australia has really turned into a socialist hellhole, and it's really sad to see America kind of leaning in that direction. It's really scary.
Look, America's the last bastion of
freedom in the
of
West.
actual liberty. Like it's come down to maybe half the country or maybe 2/3 of the country actually respects the things that were laid out in the Constitution.
Yeah.
And actually cares about the things that the founders actually cared about.
Yeah, but like that's the whole point of like me and Connor's Across the Pond show is to illustrate like look at the Anglosphere, even though Australia, New Zealand, UK are further down the road than we are. Again, they are all part of the same sort of philosophical like heritage track. And so again, Australia and the UK are just they're cousins. So they're indicators of what could realistically play out in the US. And in Australia, you're seeing the mass migration completely overhauling society. You're seeing again a lot of the heritage Australians just tacking off to the left. And it's like, okay, they're just really 20 years ahead, maybe 10 years ahead of what realistically
What will
could occur
happen
in the
here.
US.
Yeah, and we should be putting measures in place now to ensure that that does not happen.
Yes.
When it comes to Australia, I see it as like a twofold thing. They're like, number one, they're importing the third world. Okay, they're trying to flood it with as many immigrants as possible to cause chaos because they want their problem reaction solution playbook. So they're importing the third world, but they're simultaneously implementing all of these super dystopian policies like their digital ID that they're now mandating, which is basically going to be the thing that underpins a social credit score. Like, I would not be surprised if Australia becomes the first country in the West to basically reflect communist China in everything other than name.
Yeah,
Really.
they're certainly aiming to reflect it in demographics. There's so many Chinese people have moved to Australia. It's crazy.
I mean, I saw a video that was like Spot the Australian around New Year's. It was like a New Year's
Challenge
celebration, and it
level
was
impossible.
you couldn't really see. You really had to like peel your eyes to see one white Australian in this whole like grouping of people, which was in the thousands. And it speaks a lot to where Australia's at.
The new Where's Waldo.
As far as I mean,
Let's jump to this story we got here from Yahoo News. This is interesting. I just actually saw the tweet. ICE agents drew guns on off-duty officer in Minnesota chief says. We have this video clip from News Nation. I'm not exactly sure what the chief said because I'm just now seeing this, but I do want to play it because it sounds insane. Let's roll tape.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Ruley, Police Chief of the City of Brooklyn Park. Behind me is a bunch of amazing police chiefs that are here in support of a very short but very important message that we want to share with you. What you won't hear from any of us today is rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important. In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents, and we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that said, recently, as the last 2 weeks, we, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is what war looks like. The conservatives are going to say ICE is justified because we've had 20 million illegal immigrants and we are trying to get the worst of the worst out of the country. It's not a big deal to get stopped and asked for your ID. In fact, I said this about Chicago. I saw the DHS guys walking around Chicago when they came out, earlier in the year, and I said, I'm for it. My worst case, what they're going to stop me and say, "Sir, do you have your ID?" I'd say, "Absolutely, officer. Here's my ID." And they'd say, "Thank you." And I'd say, "Keep up the good work, boys." It's all that would happen.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of people that I never understood this. I certainly get you don't want your civil rights violated, but a cop stopping you, and within reason, saying, "Excuse me, we're concerned about certain criminal activity in the area. Do you have an ID on you?" It's sure. I understand, however, in certain circumstances, I'd also be like, "Am I being detained? Am I free to go?" Because not necessarily don't just trust the government, right? The problem is largely conservatives view this effort as going into a jurisdiction filled with fraud, crime. The fraud is off the charts. Just the crime is off the charts. And so they want this to happen. I certainly think, as I said last year, that ICE needs to be 200% above board. They should be wearing khakis and polo shirts as they conduct these operations because it's going to be weaponized against them. Trump will lose the election in the midterms if it looks scary to regular people. Yeah. That being said, conservatives will largely defend it and say, look, if you're a cop and they come up to you and ask for ID, why are you fighting with them? Why would another cop, she could say, certainly I'm an officer with the, what was the name of the city?
Brooklyn Park.
Brooklyn Park. I'm with the Brooklyn Park police. I got my badge and ID on me. I'll grab it right now. You know what it's like to be a cop. You know what happens when someone's coming to ask you questions, and you're a cop. What are you worried about? Liberals are going to say this proves they're Gestapo. The police are even complying. But the one thing that matters, your opinion on it, immaterial. The police have come out and issued a statement against federal law enforcement, expressing the conflict and the division. This, in my view, I don't see a path towards de-escalation unless Trump does some kind of insurrection act, goes in and then assumes domestic law enforcement operations. You are going to see more local law enforcement coming out and escalating the division between federal and local law enforcement.
You have to do the calculation here. If the whole purpose of this ICE operation is to reduce harm by removing bad people, and the way you do that is by creating even worse people that will fight you even harder than what those immigrants might have done. Then it's a failing
Desperate
operation.
times call for desperate measures, Ian. Okay, like they're doing their thing for a reason.
Ooh, but if you can get your enemy to become desperate, you've got them where you want them.
I reject the idea that this is worse than the crimes that are being committed by the criminals.
Agreed.
Okay, so right off the bat, but I do think that if ICE is being this heavy-handed. Not that I have any kind of serious moral problem with people showing the police their ID or law enforcement their ID, but the fact that the police chief is getting on TV and talking about it, to Tim's point, it is really bad for optics. And I do think that this is something that the administration and the DOJ really need to be careful about. Just the optics of this is bad. You don't want to have this as something that's in the front of people's minds. It's bad enough that to deport people and wrap them up makes ICE and DOJ look like they're using too much force, particularly because the left's going to do whatever they can to make it look like they're using too much force. They're going to go out there and they're going to try and inhibit the activities and stuff. So it's bad optically, and so that they should avoid it just for that reason.
The problem is the Republicans are not evil enough. And what I mean by that is PR games are the easiest games to play unless you're an honest person. Because you hear a story like this and the left is all freaking out. The only thing you need is for look, they got, Bovino, is that his name, right?
Greg Bovino, yeah.
Yeah, Greg Bovino. And they're decked out and they look like warriors, right? And I don't mean that as in a derogatory way. I mean, like, they look like they're out there to do the fight. That plays really well with a certain base of people. But you don't need to do that to play well to a base of people. You can have a guy go on camera and do a press conference and say, that woman was attempting to assault officers. This is an outrage. My point is this. They don't lie. Mistakes get made. ICE is heavy-handed. And then they get called out and they go, well, and people in the comments say, but she was obstructing and things like that. If Trump really was evil, if the DOJ and ICE were really evil, they would be pulling off false flags. The things that would be happening. Here's what an evil empire administration would actually do. And I'll tell you, because you know it, because you've seen it. Remember Gulf of Tonkin? If Trump was actually trying to assert control and do whatever he wanted, he'd have a couple of ICE agents get brutally murdered. False flag attack. That's what Operation Northwoods was about. The U.S. government has a history of feigning the victim, attacking itself, and then flying a false flag and blaming their enemies. Not happening. Not happening. Literally, ICE is going out there heavy-handed. The liberals are complaining about it, and the DHS is carrying on. So they can either play it straight, pull back, and say, we got to make sure every interaction is so far above board, that this doesn't happen. Come out and give a reasonable approach and say, these things happen in law enforcement operations, and for that we apologize. We will do better. This is about enforcing the law. With thousands of officers trying to find thousands of rapists and murderers, sometimes these things will happen. Trust us, we're on your side. That's the appropriate response. Yeah. If they were evil, they just come out and make up stories and lie and do whatever they wanted.
And this just radicalizes everyday people more who aren't really tapped into what's going on, people who perceive this as scary. And that's why you're getting things like, did you guys see the woman who was trying to intercept ICE officers when they were actually trying to carry out like a pedophile sting operation?
Yeah.
It's insane.
There's a video of a woman crying.
Yeah.
And the cops went to a house where it's the known address for two wanted pedophiles. And there was a guy in the house who was temporarily detained because they need to search the house for two wanted illegal immigrant pedophiles. And there's this young blonde liberal woman crying like, ah! Like, lady, this is law enforcement. Stuff happens all the time. I've seen so much worse. It's insane.
Yet they perceive
oh my God.
the ICE officers as worse than detaining pedophiles, like not just illegals, but illegal.
Well, the guy who was detained was
pedophiles.
not a pedophile.
Right, but to go into their house to obstruct the actual
Right.
operation.
They're just these people live in a fictitious reality. They are deluded because the media tells them it's the Gestapo Nazis here. I will say this. When this cop says, here's another problem. We're getting a bunch of calls about our rights being violated. I don't believe it's real for a second. I don't believe it's real for a second. If you're walking down the street and a cop stops you and says, excuse me, sir, I hate to trouble you, but we're on the lookout for a certain individual. Would you mind showing us your ID just so we can make sure, it's not you? Most people are going to be like, oh, okay, I guess. And they're going to show the ID and it's going to be like, sorry to bother you. And they're going to leave. Now, imagine if before that happens, this guy's hearing from his friends being like, dude, these guys will stop you and ask for your ID and then stab you. And they'll stab you. It's a trick. Don't believe it. They're not really cops. Then he's walking down the street and he sees a cop say, can I have your ID? He's going to go, ah! And then he's going to call the police and be like, some guy was trying to kill me. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced. The left keeps spreading this message that the Gestapo is coming to violate your rights. And they think your rights are violated when a cop says you are temporarily detained. And they go, oh, God, it's the Nazis. Bro, we've had stop and frisk for decades. This is not new stuff.
Yeah.
You can complain about it and say it's not good, but to act like this is a new thing under Trump. There was a viral meme I thought was really funny. Obama giving Tom Homan an award. And it was like, 2012, Obama gives his, head of immigration or whatever, enforcement, an award. 2019, Trump does the same thing. It's the same guy. Tom Homan worked through various administrations. Nobody complained about him back then. They complain about him now. It's fake. It's largely fake. That's what I think.
So is there a path to de-escalation?
My concern is the people who are largely uninitiated, which there are very few still, but also there is the initiated center lane, the Rogan crowd, we can call it, right? Joe Rogan's a regular guy. He does comedy, but he does some kind of politics. And there are people who watch his show and they voted for Trump, but they're not super political. I don't consider them uninitiated because they are listening to the news. Uninitiated people are few and far between these days, but they're people who are like, I don't know anything about news. I don't watch. But these people are going to get scared. And there's going to be a question that they pose in their minds. First, who is the craziest? Well, for a long time, it was the left. Violence, riots, wokeness, child sex changes, and that freaked them out. Then the question was, who's going to win? And the reason why the woke got away with it was because the fear was they had all the power. So the middle of the road people were scared to say things. They were like, if I speak up, I'll get fired from my job.
Yeah.
Well, then it started to become more and more apparent that the anti-woke, those who were calling out the insanity, were winning. So the middle of the road people finally came out and said, you know what? I agree. This is insane. It needs to stop. Now with ICE going out, new optics are emerging. People are getting freaked out by guys in masks with guns going door to door and arresting people, and the narrative about Nazis and Gestapo, and Trump losing. So the questions are once again posed in the mind of the normie. Who's crazy? And they go, well, these ICE guys going around like that lady got shot. That's crazy. I mean, even if she was driving into him, she wasn't trying to kill him. And that's nuts. They're freaked out. Then the question is, who's going to win? Doesn't look like Trump's going to win, especially with the redistricting efforts. So what you're going to see is people are going to go back to hiding, and the woke is going to get a resurgence if this continues. That's why narrative control is so important. That's why Donald Trump wanted his cabinet to be media savvy. But I got to say, they're not.
They're not.
Harmy Dillon is. She's fantastic. She should have been the AG.
I thought, since Trump named it Space Force, I'm like, God, that guy is 50, 80 years old, isn't he?
Wait, what?
Space Force.
What should he have called it?
Oh, anything other than that. Call it the Federation of Planets or something. Like,
Why would it be the Federation of Planets when it's the United
We've got the Navy,
States?
we've got the Army, and we have the Space Force.
You already have a force. You don't need you have the Air Force. You don't want another force. It was just so dumb and redundant and like.
Okay, Ian, you're not making an
Gulf
argument.
of
You're
America.
just,
it's like
you're not making an argument.
It's like drawn by an 80-year-old man, and it's in a square, and it has a yellow
Okay,
pretty
right,
picture of
hold
some
on.
like terrible,
Ian.
cheap, boring
Ian.
loser optics.
Okay,
No,
Ian, I got to stop you. This
What
has nothing to do with what we're talking
Talk about
about.
optics. Trump's mishandling of optics throughout his entire.
Your opinion on the
political
name of
career
Space Force is immaterial to the conversation we are
It's
having.
just another
and
thing
duly
that you
noted.
misnamed. Okay, thank you. But Gulf of America, similarly cringe in my opinion.
Gulf of America,
just like-
it's like North America, South America. It makes perfect sense for it to be the Gulf of America.
Call it something other than the Gulf of We've just spent 20.
It's a golf. It's a golf.
Call it like the
The
American
shoebox of America.
No, call it the
It's not a shoebox. It's a golf.
The Sea of America. I don't know, man.
kind of rock, call it like Liberty Sea.
It's like it wasn't creative, you know. Golf of.
I mean,
Liberty Sea.
Yeah, Liberty Sea, you know.
I kind of get your point. That's what I was saying at the start of the podcast. It seems like he's been more concerned with renaming things than actually focused on carrying out business, getting business done. But that's how it looks to the uninitiated. To your point as well, I think a lot more people are more uninitiated than what we think because we're so immersed in this space. Like we think that everybody, because most of the people that we interact with and talk to on a day-to-day basis are involved in this space. But I think there's still a lot of Americans who...
A lot of Americans, but proportionally not a lot of Americans, right? So a lot could be a couple, 10, 20 million, and we're like, there's a lot of people who don't, but that's less than 10%. I go out on a daily basis, and it is, I'll put it like this. The Epstein stuff plays well in the Beltway, but for regular people, they're like, man, I'm just concerned about the price, economics, but very few people I interact with don't have, when I go out on the weekends, most people that I encounter are familiar with what's going on to a certain degree. Yeah, I encountered one guy recently. He was like, I don't watch the news. Just one guy. Now, some people are wrong. I meet liberals, I meet conservatives, but they're initiated in this politics.
Yeah.
They have a moral worldview.
It's so hard to tell. We could be in a bubble.
I can't tell. It's impossible to get a finger on the
You're in
pulse.
a bubble.
I can.
I don't know, but you're in a bubble.
I'm not.
Like you think about it, so obviously you're going to see it around you more often.
Ian, I am not in a bubble.
Well, everyone's in their own reality bubble. You
To a
only
certain
see-
degree, then I'll put it like this. My bubble is bigger than yours and most people's.
Could be.
The
But
community
it's still a human bubble that everyone's in there. Like you only know what 1,000
like,
people,
everyone
or
has confirmation
Ian,
bias.
500 people, or something.
Obviously, I'm not apprised to what's going on in China or Japan or France
Or
for the
Ohio,
most part. My bubble is America. But in terms of politics, the people that I engage with typically every week are a spattering across the board, a variety of people I talk to all day, all the time. It's one of the reasons I love playing poker. People come in and out. And, I'm hanging out with Robbie and we're asking people what they do for a living and we're asking them questions. I often don't talk about myself all that often when I'm at these tables. If someone doesn't know who I am, I'll just be like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, you're at a poker table. You got $1,000 on the table. You must have a good job. And a lot of engineers, seriously, a lot of engineers. They're like, I make good money engineering.
It would be interesting to do like a man on the street thing and go out and just talk to as many people as possible and find out how politically knowledgeable they are. That's actually something that I may do to kind of test
But that's not the question. That's not the question of initiation.
Right. That's what I'm thinking now.
The question
is
are you initiation is, are you on a side in the culture war? Do you have a moral worldview here? I would argue most people have no idea what's going on. That's why they watch shows like this to get a glimpse of what's going on. Whereas I read the news 24/7. So my counter to you, Ian, is yes, we're all in bubbles. I accept that. But what you're talking about, political bubbles, you can go to my Twitter account, look at who I follow. It's a variety of journalists, conservatives, and liberal personalities. And I talk to random people every weekend intentionally to see what regular people are doing and what the conversation is about.
Off
And
the
it's
internet.
almost always political.
If you look last night on the timeline, like everyone was talking about Timcast and Nick Fuentes, like that was dominating the political zeitgeist. Guarantee you, Google Trends last night, look at Miami versus Indiana, probably like 20 times as large as that. And that was the biggest political story of that night. Was the show.
But I will say this. So I was hanging out at Hard Rock for the WPT poker series last weekend. And it was during the Bears game when they got tied up.
Oh, snap.
Holy crap, dude. How many tables? They have like 45. So it's like 500, maybe 1,000 people are in this room. And when they tied the score, the whole room's screaming at the top of their lungs. Yes, they're all searching sports. And then at any table, everyone's discussing something related to what's going on in politics. And then sometimes a dealer will be like, guys, no politics, please. It happens all the time. And then I swear to God, we were talking about something not even political. It was like I was talking about podcasts. Someone asked me about the podcast and marketing. And then I said something like, there's different advertisers depending on like political leanings and things like that. But usually you'll go with, and the dealer goes, sir, no politics. And I was like, I did not say anything political. And they were like, you can't even get close to it. But
Interesting.
It happens all the time, no matter what. Almost every table conversation, someone's going to be talking about how their job's being impacted. I think the reality is that there was a time when most people didn't pay attention, when sports was the only thing that mattered. but politics became pop culture.
Obama made it
Yeah,
really.
the
internet
heat index on a lot of these issues now, it's undeniable because it's happening on people's front lawns, like it's happening in their streets.
Yeah.
But that also begs the question, is it more in like cities like, Florida or New York or Washington? What about the more remote areas and things like this? That constitutes a large portion of the population. I'd be curious if they have strong political leanings and investments as well.
Yeah, people won't want to hear it, but it's like political, at least it's like as far as people keep up with politics, is very stratified by class. Again, people don't want to hear that because it cuts against like what a lot of the rhetoric is, especially on the populist right, but it's true. Like when I think about my upbringing, suburban Memphis, very traditional sort of normal upbringing, I have like maybe 3 or 4 friends that will text me, like in group chats with 30, 40 people, like 3 or 4 of them that are like interested in politics and are texting me stuff or like, this is funny, da 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 da. Compared to like when I lived in Manhattan, every single person that I know from my time in Manhattan, liberal or conservative, is like constantly texting me different things or trying to argue with me, and I get blocked pretty quickly. But but like it's true. I think to a degree, like the yuppie class, so to speak, or whoever sort of supplanted them, is like the most politically involved.
We got to grab one more segment before we go to our chats and rants, and this one is the most important. From livescience.com, or is it Live Science? I really don't know.
Live.
Live?
Yeah, that's what I want to call it.
I don't know. Live Science is telling you to do something.
Live science. It is a way of life.
Earth hit by biggest solar radiation storm in 23 years, triggering northern lights as far as Southern California. Well, heavens me. I asked our resident space weatherman on Twitter when he mentioned this. I said, how many aurora events have we had then? And in the past year, and he's like, this would be, I think, a third or fourth. I can't remember. No, maybe he said 5. I'm not sure. In this solar cycle, we've had 20. In the previous solar cycle, it was 2 or 3. This is unprecedented, as far as I can tell. He tweets. This is Ben Davidson tweeting. Disaster cycle. The northern lights were seen in Florida again last night. This isn't just a light show, it's a warning. The pole shift, great solar blast, and cyclical disaster of Earth culminates in the next 25 years. Our film releases in 1 week. Well, I don't know much about nothing, but I can tell you this. Space.com today. Northern lights may be visible in 10 states tonight as Earth's magnetic field rings like a bell after CME impact. This is insane that it keeps happening.
They're going to use
in your lifetime. How many times have you seen the aurora?
Never. Not once.
Well, it's happened in the United States like 4 times now in the past year.
Yep.
But sometimes they fake you out where they're like, oh, you can see it tonight, but you got to use a camera to see it. I'm like, this what a ripoff.
Yes,
I mean,
sure, but these were legit, and people were posting photos from Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
I lived in
all the pink sky.
I've lived in New England most of my life, and I never saw the aurora. Whether it be in New Hampshire, where there's not a significant amount of light pollution, but there is a lot of mountains.
I have
or in Massachusetts.
I have an off-the-wall theory. I think it's because all of these iPhone cases now have this like magnet on it. I think we're like because we're producing so many magnets. Ian, you could probably speak to
There
this.
might be something
I think
to
the
electricity.
production of magnets is like really screwing with the Earth's magnetic
man.
field.
This is wild.
They're going to use this as justification to turn off the silver markets, I bet.
The what if they
So true.
we need to shut down the electrical
Seriously.
grid to protect the planet. Like,
Is that why silver is at like $8,000?
Dude, silver is skyrocketing.
$94.
I called this actually way back in, I think, June on Her Take podcast when a lot of the big banks were flooding the market with fake sell orders. Like a ridiculous amount of fake sell orders to try to manipulate the price because
it
a lot of
down?
banksters are over leveraged in these short positions, and we've reached a point
Interesting.
now where people are demanding the actual physical asset. That's one of the reasons trying to stop exporting it. And now real world price of silver and the paper market have officially decoupled, and it's crazy. The market is doing things that we've never seen before in our lifetime, and it's kind of
$100
scary.
silver is apocalyptic.
I'm anticipating.
No, 100%.
Something is happening.
Oh no, I completely agree. I said it would double. It's tripled.
Gold's at 48 or 4,800.
And Bitcoin and everything else is plummeting.
Yeah.
It's like people want to hold something real and tangible because they perceive everything as fake and gay.
Sort of, but this is with the price of silver going up. There's a variety of factors. One could be AI demand. It's useful for computers. To put it simply, it's a conductor. It's one of the best. I think it actually is the best. So they want to buy it up for that reason. However, it's also historically just been a standard hedge. People buy it to store value. Well, particularly with inflation and the printing of money. Otherwise, you didn't need to because silver was money. So the issue now is the price skyrocketing, I believe, is at least somewhat indicative of people in the know are trying to get their hands on precious metals because the U.S. dollar is about to go belly up.
It's not just...
There's a squeeze. It's also the squeeze. That's what they call it in like the financial market terms. It's a silver squeeze where banksters are trying to get out of their sell orders, and a lot of them probably already hit margin, to be honest. Like a lot of banks,
What does that mean?
There's no way for them to basically recoup their losses. There's only so far you can go down in a trade before you get margin called and you get taken out of the market.
But what does that mean? For people who don't understand.
They were hoping that
but hold on, sorry to interrupt. A lot of people are going to say, I don't know what margin means. I don't know what margin call is.
Right.
I don't understand what you're saying.
So these banksters, they're in short positions, which means they have huge bets that the price of silver is going to go down. And so what they're trying to do is flood the market with these fake sell orders. I equivocate it to like
trick the price to go down.
Yes, exactly. And people are calling it's kind of similar to GameStop, but on a way bigger scale, where everyday people are saying, no, we know exactly what you're doing, and on account of that, we are going to demand the actual metal because there isn't enough of it in actual supply.
Yeah, but silver isn't memeing.
It kind of is, actually. Like,
well,
if you
now, only after it reached $85 did people say, I better buy some before it's too late.
They were honestly doing it when I made the call back in June. Like, there's a big kind of like underground like Reddit movement. It's a lot bigger than what people think if they don't know to look into it.
Why did these institutional buyers short silver in the first place?
I'm not sure why they shorted it initially.
Yeah.
When I started looking into what was going on, that was already happening well in advance, so I'm not exactly sure why they did that.
Because that would just be like such a bizarre move.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot
if they're
of people
sensing instability.
Well, there's a lot of people that for a long time silver kind of has been low compared to gold.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that were saying, look, the market's being manipulated. The value of silver is much higher than the actual dollar cost because it was hovering between $20 and $30 for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, you said this occurred in June.
In June, yeah.
So I mean, it could have been a reaction to the tariffs. Potentially, I mean that's when
You're talking
Liberation
about
Day
the hike in
was.
silver? It's all the platinum metals. I'm looking up ruthenium right now, but you look up rhodium, platinum, palladium.
Yeah, but silver is like
gold.
5x.
Silver's the one that's gone up the most. Some of these other ones are up 40% or 50% or 200%.
Right, that's not a meme. That it's happening even to gold. Something's happening to the dollar.
Yeah, no.
And I think, listen, rich people know before you. Trust me, they know before you. You think there's going to be some wealthy. You know what? Ignore rich. It's connected people, leaders of industry. So somebody who's involved in manufacturing or big business, they know somebody in government who says the U.S. dollar is cooked. It's going to collapse.
Yeah.
U.S. buying power is gone. And so what do? They run and they go and they buy up a bunch of precious metals, and then it causes a spike in the market. The people who know buy it up first when it's still floating around $30. Then it gets to 50, 60, and people think there's a run on silver, so they buy a bunch. Now it's at 95.
There's no stopping it, honestly.
But my point is, you can call it the wisdom of the crowd. Silver spiking says something very bad about our economy. Or you can call it a conspiracy. And I think it's fair to say maybe a little bit of both. But people in the know buying silver are basically screaming in your face, the end is nigh.
Yeah.
Maybe World War III.
I agree. I agree with you entirely.
I mean, look, if a World War III actually broke out, and I don't mean some stupid, is this world? No, I mean like literally Russia launches a missile strike on Poland to stop NATO troops coming in, or Trump makes a move on Greenland, then Russia reacts instantly and something happens, or Venezuela triggers a move on Taiwan. The moment that happens, and you get an American politician saying, we now have war on every front in the world. This is World War III. The U.S. dollar goes.
Yep.
Look,
Silver goes.
I wonder, there might be
and
a
what
hole
if it's
on
the
all the
government
values.
buying up the precious metals?
That's what I think it is.
Because they know the dollar's going to tank in a time of war, and they want to hold something of value that they can then sell for labor.
Right, something actually tangible because, again, everything's fake and gay.
That's my guess, because that's my guess, because where did that money come from? If that indicates that the value of all those metals are now that money must have appeared. I mean, it could have come out of the current supply.
The value of those commodities, they're commodities. So the value of those commodities, like is not reflective of how, or is reflective of how many dollars there are. A big part of the cost here, or a big part of the price increase, is because of all the dollars they printed.
This is rhodium went from 5,000 to 10,000 this last year.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Doubled in price.
look at how many dollars they printed. They printed 80% of the dollars that exist in the past 5 years.
Look at the way rhodium's gone up. This is so obviously a collusion. It goes up, and then it stabilizes, then it goes up, then it's people are doing this and waiting, and then they're doing it and waiting. They're about to wait and then do it again.
Ian, look at the dates though.
This is 1 year. This is one
Yes,
the dates.
the
in the past
dates of
year.
the spikes correlate with major geopolitical events and policy issues.
That could be, yeah.
There's another play here, and that's of course AI. And I think one of the issues that these data centers are outright saying, guys, we could increase our productivity, 3x if we were using silver instead of copper. And so they're like, buy it.
Yeah.
The price is meaningless to the listen. Let me tell you how horrifying things are. Viral videos across TikTok and Instagram where a guy is so it's a vertical video and there's a small window of a guy and he's talking, and then there's some busty young woman talking in the exact same video. It's like it's AI replacement. And he'll be saying, guys, do you want to learn how to make 6 figures with an AI brain slop? What do they call them? Like e-girl? And the girl is moving and saying it like she's the guy. And then the voice slowly turns into the female voice, where she's like, I can teach you how to make things just like this. And then they sell courses on this stuff. Then all these AI slot videos are popping up. We talked about it last year, 2 years ago, how there's Instagram thoughts that are just AI generated. And they were weird looking, but now they're getting better and better. And there's also the AI generated news videos, which are making $150K per month. There's a video I saw where it was this guy talking about how he makes animal videos on Sora, and it's just like, make a video of a dog saving a baby from a snake, and then he uploads to YouTube, boom, 500,000 views, and then he's like, AI brain slop. He's like, you do 50 of them a day, and you're making 6 figures. This is what's dominating everything. That's the AI we have now. Internally with ChatGPT and Gemini, these have AIs where they're doing much more advanced money-making schemes. Go on any one of these chats. I've done it. And say, based on current trends and news analysis, which publicly available stock do you believe will go up? And it'll be like, here's a list of top 10 stocks based on aggregation, which are expected to rise. And then you buy them. And then you buy, hey, don't take it from me. That's AI telling you what to do, not me. I'm not giving any advice. Now imagine you owned the back end. All you have to do is say, go on the internet and trade stocks until I have $20 billion. And it goes, done. And then you could probably generate $20 billion in a few months.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way you have politicians not able to buy and trade stocks. You might want to have AI corporations not able to buy and trade.
There was a move being done in crypto called, I think it was crypto arbitrage, it was called, where basically computers could track a sell or buy order faster than a human could. And as soon as the human put the order in, the computer would execute a sale to get a fee and then intercept the transaction. So it would take percentages of the sales and generate revenue for nothing. There are stories of people who are doing Ethereum arbitrage making millions of dollars per month, and no one noticed because all they were doing was basically saying, if someone puts in an order, we're to do a quick buy and sell. Because the way it works is you'll say, like, I'm willing to bid up to $3,000 for an Ethereum, and then the price could fluctuate a little bit. The AI, and this is rudimentary machine, like this is well before ChatGPT, would see the order come in and then execute a trade really quickly to get a thin margin.
And they'll use multiple networks.
So you're like, like a hedge, like a buy and sell order simultaneously,
Well,
so you can't lose either way, basically?
You could set up on multiple networks.
Somebody
on one
says,
network.
I'd like to buy Ethereum and I'm willing to pay $3,000 for it. The AI sees the order go in and quickly acquires the Ethereum and sells it to the person. It intercepts the order and executes it faster so that it gets.
Interesting.
You got to look at how it works because I'm not exactly sure. The general idea was in stocks as well. If a computer can execute trades faster than you, and it can see you doing it in a millisecond, then when you say I'm willing to buy at 3,000, and the price is fluctuating, it attacks the fluctuation to do a quick trade so that it can monetize your transaction. Something that effect, and I'm probably butchering the explanation, but the gist of it was basically intercepting crypto exchange transactions to generate tiny profits on their end. But it's a machine doing tens of thousands per hour, so the person's making millions of dollars a year.
That's crazy.
Doing nothing, turning a program on, pressing enter and walking away.
That's insane.
Now imagine what Google is doing. They don't care about money. It's completely meaningless to them. They're saying they go to the AI and they say, go on the market and generate $20 billion. And it goes, done. When they've released this data, when they put out the experiment where they said they put ChatGPT online, it immediately started trying to make money, manipulating stocks and things like this. Not manipulating, but buying and trading stocks. And it can see the trades faster than you, so it knows exactly what's going to happen. It can see the orders come in so quick, it knows when to get in and when to get out. So my point is they're generating billions of dollars they don't care about, and they're probably saying just buy it the silver.
I think I heard of it. It's like a sandwich bot, I think is what it was called.
This has been how stock market trading's been for a long time now. It's just AI executing faster than a human can. You can't beat them.
It's crazy.
We're going to go to your Rumble rants and super chats, my friends. So smash the like button. Share the show with every single person you've ever met. You can follow me, of course, on X and Instagram at Timcast, and the uncensored show will be at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Subscribe if you haven't. Before we get into your chats, we got a great sponsor. It is WebRoot. Head over to WebRoot. We've got webroot.com/pool. Use code pool or /pool and get up to 50% off. As I'm sure you've heard this week, TransUnion confirmed a data breach that affects over 4 million people. It's a prime example of why it's so important for people to have products like WebRoot Total Protection, which includes identity protection for up to 10 identities, up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement, 24/7 U.S.-based customer support and elder fraud hotline. That's good stuff right there. Identity and dark web monitoring. Plus, you get antivirus, VPN, and cloud backup so that you're protected holistically from all threats. And I want to stress that U.S.-based customer support. My buddy Robbie was calling a restaurant for a reservation, and the guy who answered was Indian. And he just goes, "Hey, bro, I got to be honest. Like, I know you're in India. Can you connect me to the restaurant?" And the guy goes, "But why? I can do it for you." He goes, "I really just need to talk to the restaurant." And went, "Okay." And I was like, "Wow, that was wild, dude. What happened?" So you'll also get antivirus, VPN, cloud backup. So you're protected holistically. WebRoot Total Protection is an all-in-one device privacy and identity protection that can keep you safe in the event that your personal data is compromised. If your identity is stolen, it can take between 100 and 200 hours to resolve it on your own, but not if you have WebRoot Total Protection. With WebRoot Total Protection, you have insurance for your digital life and personal data. Let them give you a peace of mind in the wake of these continued data breaches. You get 50% off at webroot.com/pool. Check it out again. That's 50% off WebRoot Total Protection or their WebRoot Essentials when you go to webroot.com/pool. Let's grab your rants and chats, my friends. Let's see what's up. B. Mobius says, Newsom said that he should have brought knee pads to Davos. Awfully homophobic of him.
That's funny.
Quispy Joe says, wait, are you related to Rodney Dangerfield, Amy Dangerfield?
It's not even his real name. It was a stage name.
Yeah.
But so no, Dangerfield's my real last name. That's not Rodney's real.
Do you know what
last name.
Olivia Wilde's real name is?
No.
Do you know?
Do not.
I don't even know who that is.
Tate, no?
Don't know.
Does someone want to look? Olivia Wilde, the actress?
Yeah.
You know who she is?
No, I know who she is.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know her name.
Who wants to? You want to look up her wiki and then say her real name?
I want to say it out loud.
You do. You
I hope
should.
it's offensive.
What do you mean?
Olivia Wilde with an E.
Olivia Jane Cockburn.
Is Cockburn?
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
no
wow.
wonder she changed it.
Wow.
Shout out Olivia.
Sometimes stage names are necessary. Okay, I get it.
Jane
It's wild.
Cockburn. What a name.
Yeah, she wasn't trying to be an adult
Win the
actress.
lottery,
so.
you know.
No.
Yeah, fair enough. No.
Cockburn.
All right. Culture Americano says, I watch every episode of Timcast. I was incredibly happy to see Nicholas on the show yesterday. I think he is best on a panel rather than solo. He is hilarious in a panel setting. Yeah, it's funny because, like I was saying, I hide nothing. When we had it was hard to bring him on the show in the past because of the censorship, and so I had said there needs to be like a news thing that happens with him. We can bring him on. Makes it harder for them to just censor and delete the episode like they did with Alex Jones. I don't think he said something like I don't know, he criticized that commentator, but it's true. And now that they've eased up and there's no problem, we have him on. The other thing is everybody who's had him on has struggle sessioned him. And when Tucker didn't, they're like, Tucker, why did you struggle session him? Yeah. And I'm like, that's stupid. I don't know. The point is, it's a news commentary show, and he's a news commentary guy, and he's got some bad opinions, but we've had communists on the show too. So it's like, if you know, when Nick made comments about Jewish people, I pushed back a little bit. I questioned, and I said, well, your answer is your answer, I guess. Like I made my point. But it wasn't more like real quick. With the communists, they get antagonistic on matters of fact, not opinion. Nick has got opinions I disagree with for the most part. I also think a lot of his views are taken out of context. Like Well, and we knew this. He explains that he's very offensive and he offends everybody, and we get it. And fine. But I don't live in this struggle session reality. Look, if you guys don't like the guy, that was always allowed. But we've had way worse people on this show.
He's also comedic. Like, if you watch his show, he is truly hilarious. And so he does say a lot of things that are hyperbolic. He makes a lot of jokes. He's very edgy. But if you actually watch his show for any extended period of time, you extract a lot of value from it. In my humble
He
opinion.
knows a lot, and he likes teaching.
He's
But
very
what
knowledgeable.
my favorite thing about him is, well, one of my favorite things, he really likes to listen. Like if there's that's why he was doing so well. It does well in group settings, and like if someone cuts him off, he'll just stop and listen to what they're saying and like go in that direction. And he's still, his brain's agile enough to just kind of flow with
Versus
it.
the one-on-one interviews, where I feel like people are over the one-on-one interviews because a lot of them don't get to the crux of the issue. So many of them are like, "I get to know you. Who are you? What's your backstory?" We've heard it all before. Anyone who's tuned into Nick, we know it already. Like, can we get to the crux of the issues, which he gets to do in a panel setting?
I mean, here's the other thing too. Like, we asked him why he said Hitler was cool, and he's like, he said he thought he was, and it's just like, so tell him it's bad. I like. Do you not engage with people with bad opinions ever? You say, okay, that's dumb, I guess.
I like it.
remember,
I wanna know
I tell
why
the
they
communists
think
they're
it.
stupid too, and Stalin was evil, and communism is evil. We'll tell them to their faces.
the people that really go hard against Nick and do the struggle session and stuff. It's not really about Nick. It's about them letting the world know that they're a good person. Just
The
like when we
virtue
had
signal.
when we had Straighterate on, the whole point of her debating, the whole strategy she had was, I want you to
Yup.
say something where I can go ahead and say you're a bad person and I'm a good person, and that's the same exact thing that people will do with Nick.
What doesn't work is when she's on and she's like, "What about Venezuela?" And I'm like, "I don't think we should have done it." She's like, "You don't?"
Yeah,
And I'm like, "You think you're going on this like far right conservative everything's MAGA show? Trump does no wrong." And then we're like, "No, Trump does a lot of things wrong." And then they're like, "Oh, but I'm just here to pretend like you're my enemy." And then they get into this weird problem where they have to disagree with whatever you say in order to, because it's tribal. But you're saying things they also have to agree with. I think there were a few liberals that we invited on the show that agreed to, and then at the last minute said no. And I think the reason was they would be forced to reconcile with their agreement on many conservative issues. And that's one of the reasons they avoid these shows. Because they're issues of fact and truth that are fairly obvious that they're going to end up agreeing on. But more importantly, there's going to be some conservative Trump supporter who's going to say something like, "Oh, I don't think we should give money to Israel," and they're going to agree, and then they're going to have to explain to the liberals why they agreed with someone who was far right,
Yeah.
because it's really just tribal.
I think conservatives have been good at that, especially during this administration, is being critical of the bad decisions of our party. Versus, liberals, like you said, they're very tribalistic and they equate being wrong with death, basically. And so they refuse to concede in any way, even when it's completely logical. I mean, you do get like the government bootlickers on the right who anytime you say something about Trump, they get really mad at you. But,
Yep.
it's always going to happen.
Let's grab some more. We got Jacob Pauly says, "Did you guys see the new bill passing through the Virginia legislature? It reduces minimum sentences for CP grape. Let's just call it what it is. Child porn, rape, and assault of officers and federal officers. Crazy." Christian Hines posted about it. Indeed. That was part of what Greg Price was talking about. I am concerned about minimum sentence requirements in general. I do think there are certain, like rape and child abuse, I'm totally fine with being like, it's life. You're lucky if it's life and not death.
Should be the wood chipper.
Like if
Dude,
you're,
oh
if
my
you're
So true.
the people convicted of this, well, I oppose the death penalty for a variety of reasons, but I certainly understand the sentiment around people who abuse kids. I think I got a better option for in minimum absolute sentencing. Any offense against children, sexual abuse, is life in prison. And if you guys want to argue for death penalty, have that argument. I'm saying the minimum is life.
Yeah.
He's absolutely
Well,
that's
here's
without
the-
parole.
You are gone from society. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, there's no cure for.
I
Pedophilia,
propose to
right?
the island. I propose to the island.
Yeah.
The island is we send you to an island
That's
and then
Australia.
have fun.
She's a result of that experiment.
That's where all
We
the
could-
convicts
we
of the
could
European
use
convicts
Australia.
went. Oh, there we
The
go.
U.S. should send all of our convicts to Australia.
Again, they went from European convicts to American convicts.
Yeah, what do you think?
Australia's going to be a really great place. Wow.
Yeah, what do you think we're wanting Greenland for? Just like, oh, it's strategically important. That's all window dressing. We want to
And-
make a
and-
pedophile island.
but it's going to be amazing. Pedophile Island.
We already had one. Didn't go so well.
And it's going to be like the Truman Show where we film and they have to fight. The only thing they can eat is like whale.
Yeah, they're just like on dog sleds going around. It's just crazy there, dude.
The only thing that we do is we send pedophiles and polar bears.
Right, and then just let
like the Truman Show, but it's only pedophiles and polar bears.
Right.
All
So we can make it a TV show.
Here we go. James Smith Politics says civil war is most likely to happen not directly from the deportations, but from the loss of electoral votes, House seats in blue states. Dems are already expected to lose 10 to 13 seats in the 2030 census. It won't matter if we lose in the midterms and then they erase everything Trump is doing and open the border again.
Yeah, literally.
Just because I'm free says, if Republicans do nothing, then it was nice hearing your opinions, Tim, because the Democrats will put you in prison for spreading foreign propaganda. At least you won't. I think you meant to say, at least you won't be alone in there. That's the joke. The joke is that we're all going to be breaking rocks together. So at least I'll have good company.
Yeah, I've been practicing banging out license plates. I'm getting pretty good. So
you have laser precision.
Yeah, I think the libtard Gestapo will be happy with my license plate performance.
It feels like the same impotence of the government in 2017 with no real goal of like, how are you going to fix the world, guys? Now that you have control of the most powerful government on earth, what are you going to do? Crickets. 2020 comes by. We're like, we want our guy back in power. He comes back. What's the plan? And they're like, we want to undo some damage with ICE. Like, okay, fine. Assume that's done. What's the plan? What's the goal?
Well, that is the goal, because like with mass immigration continuing, that's how you develop the breathing room to then apply any other policy. Like everything is downstream from immigration in the West.
It was in 2017. There was no downstream, and it was the same lackluster inaction. Nothing was getting solved. Like problems were exacerbating.
I think the executive has been much more effective than the first term. Again, there's like a lot to be lacking. That's pretty much what we've been discussing these last few weeks. But like, I do think there's a big difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2.
Yeah.
Again, is it like great? Not necessarily. There's a lot of complaints, but I think the ball is moving down the field. And it's just a matter of now we're going to need to start seeing some 20-yard gains.
It's worth pointing out that like the economy was doing really, really, really well under Trump 1 as well. Like, and that's a big deal for a lot of people.
We'll grab some more. We got Mythos says, Tim, the universe is ancient. The sun, a couple billion years old. It's not unprecedented. It's a cycle. You've lived less than 40 years. It's not even a blink of an eye in the cosmic history. So pedantic. I'm talking about American history. I'm talking about our lifetimes. I'm not talking about 5 billion years ago or 40 million years ago. And isn't it something like the Stegosaurus is closer to us than the Tyrannosaurus in time frame or something like that?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
They were tens of millions of years apart. The point is, in our lifetimes, we've never experienced this kind of solar activity, which is indicative of a cycle which does happen every several 100,000 years. We recognize that. Yeah. It's just that in our lifetimes, it's happening. Ron Paul meme.
Yeah, literally, this is like childlike thinking. Like, you know, when you're in school and you first learned about like the inevitable heat death of the universe in like 200 billion years, and that like actually stressed you out. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, okay, dude, you know.
All right, let's.
Did you ever cry on New Year's Eve because the year was ending?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's why I'm upset.
I was like 8.
Yeah, I'm upset about them ending daylight savings time as well, because like I actually kind of like it. It breaks up the year. I love setting my clock.
Silas says, thoughts on Amelia from Pathways. What's that?
Dude, I keep getting people tweeting at me and Connor to cover this. I'm gonna have to like tap in.
She's AI, isn't she?
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I saw some video where she was like talking to King Arthur or something. I don't know what it is.
Let's go.
Is on Twitter.
And
she was complaining about Muslims or something.
UK government-funded educational visual novel.
Oh, and people are putting her in anti-Muslim things.
Okay, that's it.
Nah, see, I understand now.
Amelia, all right.
Let's grab a couple more here while we're all here and having a good time.
So true.
Having a good time. 20-something drifter says, I'm a former Minnesota State government employee. Well, I didn't see fraud there. I'm not surprised it's rampant. Easily the most disjointed and disorganized place. The whole damn thing needs investigation. I think the feds should take it over. This is not a joke.
What? Yeah. Minnesota?
Yeah.
They got to ask for it.
It's like they flooded the state with people from Fraudland and they commit fraud.
Fraudlandia. All right. Joel Ketchum says, per Timcast tradition, I'm currently at the hospital with my third kid, first daughter, Gemma Bay Mary Ketchum.
All right.
Nice one.
Let's go. Welcome to the World Patriot. A lot of work to do. Just lock in as soon as you can start walking. and talking.
Figure out gravity. It's
Neglectful Sauce says, Tim to Nick, what if we magically ethnically cleansed USA so that they were Indian but still believed in the same culture? What a wild take. Think hard, which is literally not what I said. I asked him, if everyone in this country magically transformed into Indians and they held all their same views and they were Christians and they loved the Founding Fathers and the First Amendment, is that a bad country? And I think Nick was trying to avoid getting a bit aggressive on the issue of race and genetics. So he left it as he thinks a white country is better. My interpretation of what he was saying is that he believes that there is something intrinsic to the genetics of white people that results in certain behaviors and cultural norms that doesn't exist in other racial groups.
Do you disagree with that?
I 50-50. I think, and maybe he just didn't articulate it, but when you look at certain cultures, there's going to be some obvious things that guarantee this to be true. Shorter people have shorter doorways. You know what I mean? Meaning, if you replaced every American with Thai people, they're on average, 3-4 inches shorter, then they're going to construct homes in different ways. There'll be different styles of architecture based on their bodies. If you Scandinavians, they're all very tall. You're going to get a completely different country. That's the obvious thing. The things that aren't so obvious is how does it manifest in terms of behaviors and social cohesion. But I do think it's fair to say that if you look at Japan, there is, I'll put it simply, I think it's nature and nurture are 50-50. I think people are largely driven by their development in the world that is around them. That's why you'll meet someone who's Asian but was born in America and they have a North American accent.
Right.
They don't have a Chinese accent because nature is more important. That being said, I think genetics plays a role in other ways that is less likely to express itself culturally, but can manifest in less perceivable ways, I suppose.
When it comes to like people that argue about don't race mix, I don't agree with that because I think a lot about the value of certain racial genetic mixes that might happen in the future that we have yet to see. And I do know that there's like a strengthening of the genome when you introduce multitudes of genetics.
It's called hybrid vigor.
Hybrid vigor. It selects for the strongest and then passes those on. I highly recommend.
Well, it's not necessarily a
race
guarantee.
mixing.
It's volatility.
Highly recommend.
Oh,
it's
and
volatility.
Tell me more.
It could go either way.
Yeah.
You could get really bad or really good, but the thing is, the really bad don't survive, and the really good does. So with hybrid vigor, you're mixing it up, and then you might get. Let's just keep it away from humans for the sake of
tantalizing.
Well, I'm
demons.
just keeping it hypothetical. Like you have, a lemming from Mexico and a lemming from Russia. When they breed, they could have one retard baby and one super strong, super intelligent baby. Well, natural selection, the retard one doesn't survive and have babies. The strong one does. And so you get hybrid vigor.
Is it, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but is it more likely that people of cross genetics, like different genetics, will have a retarded child?
So if the closer you are, like incest, you have a high rate of, I forgot exactly what the reason was. I read a long time ago about, I think the rudimentary way to explain it is there are, in your genetics, things that are way too similar, which cause a
competition?
No. It's the expression of genes duplicate or something like that. That's what causes the inbreeding. Like your nose gets too big, your jaw falls off, because the gene that will control for nose size gets doubled up, and then you're like, "Ugh," and you're
Hills
like
have
the
eyes type shit.
what was the family the European royalty?
Oh, the Habsburgs.
Habsburgs. I thought that's what it was.
Well, that's why Jimmy Carr had a bit where he's like, you should thank the Catholic Church. I'm a Protestant. You should be thanking the Catholic Church for chins because, like in the 12th century, they banned incest. They said they'd be like a sixth cousin or higher to be able to get married because they were trying to break up the tribal clan nature of Europe. And so when they did that, it saved everyone's chin. So the Catholic Church was engaged in looks-maxing a long time ago.
Everybody in Iceland are cousins.
Did you guys see in the UK they were trying to put out propaganda actually encouraging cousins to marry?
What?
Yeah, and they're like gaslighting people like it's like white people doing it. I'm like, I think Gavin McInnes laid this out on the Joe Rogan show quite effectively.
Iceland, because it's doesn't have a lot of to and from, and it's been settled by one group of people. They're mostly related, and there's an app you can download to make sure you're not cousins.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I need that.
You know what they need?
Goodness.
Iceland needs an influx of fresh genes.
That's what I've been thinking.
Ian,
Is Iceland next?
you're a strapping young man.
We should buy Iceland.
buy
Buy
Let's
it from
take
the Icelanders. Take it with economic prowess. No, I'm just kidding.
So
Just
true.
join us.
All
on
right,
this
what do we
ride.
got here?
Iceland.
Polypure says the baby boom took place in the 1950s, the 1957 being the largest birth year in U.S. history. Tim, baby boomers are 56 to 71. There was no baby boom at all in the 1940s. Okay, baby boomer years.
The boom happened right after World War II.
46 to 64.
Yeah, they got back from the war and they were like, I'm
Yes.
not wasting another day.
The oldest baby boomers are now at life expectancy. I didn't make this up. I was reading the research on generations, and what's called the mortality shelf or the mortality cliff happens to every generation. When a generation reaches this age, the mortality rate for that generation skyrockets. So in the next several years, for the obvious reason of the oldest boomers are reaching 80 years old, Trump I think Trump was 46, right?
Yep, he's the oldest boomer.
Yeah, and he's 79 still. How old is he? 79?
79.
That's life expectancy. So what happens is boomers now are at 60 million because there's natural attrition. As time goes on, people die. And the next 5-10 years, they expect it to fall down to like 20 million.
Yeah.
Like rapid death because they're all going to be in their 80s.
Yeah, that's why in the United States our fertility rate went negative in the 80s, but the population hasn't started declining until now, at least among Native Americans. So, these things are delayed onset, so to speak.
Exploding tree risk?
Oh, yeah,
What is
yeah.
this
This is
notification?
happening in Minnesota. Yeah, these trees are exploding because it's getting so cold.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't literally explode. They crack and pop.
Yeah.
As the frozen sap expands and then breaks the... Wow, that's
Apparently
crazy.
it causes problems for like deer and stuff. It messes with their migration patterns because they hear like popping and stuff going off, and so they just like run around.
Are the deer retarded?
Yeah, it disrupts like deer populations.
All right, everybody, we're going to go to that uncensored portion of the show over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with everyone you know. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Amy, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you guys can follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Amy Dangerfield. I'm also on X and Instagram.
Follow me at Ian Crossland and check out graphene.movie if you haven't been there yet. There's a trailer up for the new graphene movie that I'm producing and starred in, as well as you can sign up for the mailing list at graphene.movie. Follow me at Ian Crossland on X, YouTube, Instagram. See you later.
X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown, and go on the Culture War channel and Connor Tomlinson's channel to see last weekend's episodes of Across the Pond. We went into like Zoomer nihilism and broke down why that is occurring and some of the economic factors, but also some of the social factors that are driving that. We brought in the great Nathan Halberstad. He brought in all the data and flushed it out for us. So go check that out. It's great episodes.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. The band is All That Remains. We're going on tour this spring. We're starting in Albany on April 29th. We're going out with Born of Osiris and Dead Eyes. Go to allthatremainsonline.com to get your tickets. You can check out the band All That Remains on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We'll see all of you at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.